Hello, hello. I guess we can start. Welcome everyone for coming to our stage. We fielded a bunch of questions for an AMA, which I'm going to be asking to James and Boris. We released the Morgus pack last week. I hope everyone's been enjoying it. So we'll be going through your questions and hopefully getting you guys the info that you're dying to hear. So yeah, just to start us off, Boris, do you want to kick us off by uh, letting us know your favorite part of the update we released last week and what you contributed?
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm one of the gameplay devs, gameplay engineers at World Makers here, and yeah. Oh wow. I'm pretty happy with the circus theme overall. Really enjoying it. Maybe one of my favorite things. We got a monkey in the game. What's not to love about a monkey, particularly a clown monkey? But probably one of the smaller things I actually enjoyed quite a bit was the claw machine task. That was quite a fun one to make. Trying to get the physics in there. We've tried to had a bit more fun with the physics in some of the tasks for this map. So that was a lot of fun from my end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
looking
used
really
that in quite a
cool.
bit, didn't we? The physics. That was
Yeah,
cool.
we've
It
got
worked
a
out so well.
yeah, we got a couple like on the shooting task, like the darts and the cans and all that. That was a lot of fun as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my personal favorite things is just the general theming, right? Like, I feel like this fairground circus vibe fits very well with the game, especially with the idea of tasks. I feel like it's quite natural, right, with the claw machine, the balloons, as well as a bunch of the others we've done. How about you, James? Is there anything in particular that stands out that is your favorite bit of last week's update?
Um, I mean, I agree on a lot of the task points. It's something that we've been speaking about. It might come up in the questions. Like, we wanted to try and take a step up from what we did in the last map. And there's lots we've been speaking about there. So I was definitely really happy with the theming of the tasks and also how they felt, I guess, more varied. But aside from the tasks, I guess, like obviously the Phantom role, I think that was pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to pull off a role like that without it being frustrating. Um, and obviously, it has its downsides and its upsides. There's no perfect answer to a role like that, but to get something where you kind of trick everyone, and it's a pretty disruptive type of role, and I feel like the way we got it in has worked out pretty well. So I was pretty happy with that. Those
Hmm.
kind of stand out to me. Obviously, I also like um, the monkey the monkey feeling, the first kind of jump scare with the Jack in the Box. There are a few highlights I
Yeah,
like.
I certainly remember playtesting in the office when we first got the Jack in the Box in. It was, the first time in quite a while. I heard some screams coming from some desks.
Yeah, we
As for
we
all of
we
the
also
industry.
had when the monkey went on going bananas. It was it was a louder sound. We had to tune that down, but that was a great jump scare as well. Overall, actually, I mean, he's not here talking, but I love the music that was added. What Callum did was really fun. Lots of the sound design. It's just one
I
guy
like the
working on it,
music a
so
lot as
it's
well.
a lot
Yeah,
of fun. A lot of
there's
extra,
also yeah
yeah, details and stuff.
yeah. I think also there was a live saxophone performance right on the music for that, which was cool. Like we got a
Yeah.
musician to record that, and I think that felt like it added quite a lot when we did that. It's one of those things that you don't notice explicitly, but it was cool to get something like that a bit more out there into the game.
Yeah. I think one small detail that I don't think is that noticeable that's really cool is I believe that the way that Morgus waves his hands somewhat times to the music as well. So as the going bananas gets faster, Morgus times his hands to the BPM of that. It's just a nice little quality bit there.
And when he front flips over the vault, if you see in third person, it's kind of hard to see, but when he does his vault animation, he actually front flips, which is quite funny. So yeah,
Yeah.
monkey's
Right.
coming.
Cool. Okay, cool. Let's move on to our first question from the community. This first one's a bit of a group of a few that I think came in, but a lot of people are wondering what's the current situation with competitive mode and when we expect ranked to be a thing.
Yeah, so that's been kind of mentioned in some of the stuff we've been looking at in the roadmap for a while, right? Our answer to that for the last few months has been like we wanted to add more to the game to before we looked at that, and I think we've kind of it feels like we've reached that point, right? I think it feels like um, we've added enough roles, And I think the question we're asking now, before we set any kind of date for that, it's not something that we've set a date for yet, like a ranked or competitive queue. We first of all want to now look at the two reasons why we think that people are asking for ranked. And like obviously on the one hand there's the competitive side, but on the other hand I think there's the matchmaking side, right? Like I think players also want to be able to play in a queue that is just with slightly more experienced players, and I think it speaks to that bigger issue that might come up in other questions, right, about like match made games and the fact that the game can be super fun one game and then not fun the next game based on who you're playing with, right? So I think we're looking at a lot of the feedback, kind of deciding what that means for ranked. Obviously with Deceit 2 we have taken more of a social deduction centered take on the game than Deceit 1, where that was like ended up a bit more action focused. And obviously we still have that balance there, but I think the best ranked queue for Deceit 2 might look slightly different to Deceit 1. So it's something that we're still talking about. We don't have a date yet, but we're definitely looking at feedback, and that's definitely coming, like, bubbling towards the top now.
Nice. Moving on. Again, another bunch of grouped questions is about new content. So, are we planning on creating new curses, new terrors, etc.? Like, what's the upcoming plans?
The first four definitely kind of came as a group. We went straight from one into the next. There's some stuff we've looked at and a bit of work we've done here and there. You might have seen on our website that we've teased, but at the moment, for the next couple of months, it's probably worth emphasizing that our focus is definitely on like refining what we have, I would say. So I don't today we're not really going to commit to any like announcements about new content, because I think we have a bit of a push going on now on like performance, on animation improvements, on bug fixes. So I guess for today that's kind of where we're focused on before we do that. There's a bit of teaser content out there on stuff we might look at next, but nothing that we've committed to just yet.
Yeah, we're having a bit of a shift internally. We've been very feature focused, especially with these the first release and the first four terrors that came out. Whereas now we're wanting to take the foot off the pedal a little bit and focus more on bug fixes, improvements, tweaks, making sure everything is in a better position before we move on to that stuff.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like it's been awesome to see like a lot of help getting community bugs. Like last last few days I've been working solely on like getting bugs because they've kind of stacked up over the last last little while now, and so it's nice to actually hunker down and actually really focus on like the small improvements that go a long way. That are really important.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I'd like to give a shout out to both our moderators and game testers. They spend a good portion of their time on our testing servers, testing the updates before they come out, feeding back to us the bugs, etc. So they've been a great help in raising visibility from all the issues that you guys find and helping bubble to the top what really matters to you guys for us to work on, which is what we're putting into full effect over the next coming weeks.
Yeah, by the way, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We are looking out for that. We have pre-prepared questions, and actually, I've already seen like the first thing I saw in the chat was ranked, and we answered that at the same time. So, um, we're on the lookout, but we might be answering your question anyway, because this list we've compiled from Discord from all the most popular questions, right?
Cool. This next question, it kind of rolls off of what we were just talking about. But is there any plans to rework / buff roles like the Soulbound or terrors like the Werewolf?
Yeah, I think we haven't got a fixed date for a change yet, but that's one of the things we are looking at. We're aware that like just more for tweaking, right, the balancing of say the Soulbound, and some of the curses. We're definitely looking at balancing right now. That's stuff that we'll be addressing. We do have
Yeah,
data on it, right, from live, so that's one of the things we're doing. But we're also looking at player feedback. It also changes with time, right? As people learn the game more, things just become stronger or less strong, right? A lot of the time. So we might be adding small extra features. We're not going to change anything like substantially, but we might add some additional functionality or rebalance on roles just to give them more ways to win. So we're looking at that. Currently looking through the feedback.
Yeah, and that kind of comes over the bug overview that we're doing at the moment, because it's not just that they are bugs, but it's like small quality of life improvements that you can just uh, go quite far. Because at the end of the day, like something may feel strong or not, or weak or not fun to play, but like that could just be something that just needs to iron out certain issues. So
I've seen in the chat, right, like Werewolf and Vamp are mentioned as maybe underwhelming or less balanced. I think we're still looking at the stats. We'll be able to say something in the near future about how the win rates are, but I do think the experiment is perceived as quite strong, right? Like the eyes um, are quite a strong mechanic. Another thing is like how things pair together, right? Like
yeah,
sometimes pairs of terrors can be stronger than others. So we're
yeah.
definitely looking at all of that.
Experiment with it. I feel like whenever I hop in a game, if as long as one of us is the experiment, it is super helpful because it's just a very well balanced. It's the start and the default for a reason. It's just very well balanced. But
Yeah, I had more
if you
time,
pair
right?
that
We,
with
we
something
changed
else,
that kit a few times, didn't we? Like we added. I
yeah,
think we're pretty happy with where we ended up. I would say agree with that, right? We're kind of pretty happy with the experiment, and so we kind of agree there, and we'll adjust things as needed.
Next question: will there be any news on the upcoming projects that World Makers are currently working on?
By the way, just to respond to the point about the Phantom at the beginning, like it does say there's a Phantom in the game. That's such a difficult one, right? Because it's kind of such a shame that you can't trick people more, but the frustration on the other end's probably a bit too much to deal with if we don't say it. Yeah, so in terms of other projects, so yes, I mean, as a company, yes, we have another project that we're working on that got a bunch of venture capital funding, but it's not related to Deceit and it has its own team. So don't really have too much to add there. I mean, as a business, it's cool that we're seeing additional funding, but Deceit's out, it's revenue generating, we're reinvesting in it, so it's very much its own thing. We're not doing another like Deceit based like IP product. It's all in Deceit, so um, we're focused on updating Deceit 2 in that respect.
yeah.
Um,
Could I actually pull it back to that Phantom point just so because it has been brought up a lot and just so people understand our point of view. A lot of folks have like uh, fair enough like pointed out like oh like you're reminded on the day it starts on the first day um and like you can banish them straight away and that can kind of like tilt the game super early on and there's a balance there between potential trolling and abuse by players but also currently if the Phantom wasn't able to be banished on the first day, uh, it could potentially lose without a chance to win because the Phantom will die on the end of day if both infected are eliminated. So it's one of those really niche, like 50-50 situations where, in a perfect world, when coming to Banner's Deceit, you're trying to measure, we want the game to be the most fun, effectively. And if the trolling toxicity gets too much, then maybe we'll change some try and help push in a certain direction. But we also don't want dead end game states where it's impossible for us to win in a certain situation. So, yeah.
I noticed there was a question about the emblems. Actually, I noticed this earlier when looking at the questions. So Deceit 1 emblems, we intend to put them in Deceit 2. It's taken us a while to get to that. We had to make more changes and improvements to Deceit 2 since launch over the last year than we originally expected because of the different groups of players we have right from Deceit 1 saying they want changes. We're pretty happy now with where we brought Deceit 2. And that is meant to be in the profile tab. So definitely aware that we need to get to that. And yeah, the emblems should be in the profile tab. It turns out that the profile tab is kind of like on the menu, the like last thing we've gotten to. You would have seen in this update a new tab, like the roles tab in the menu, which we're pretty happy with. And the menu of Deceit 2 has evolved a lot over time. So because we've just kind of tried to really focus on helping new players understand the game and done a lot of menu improvements, that hasn't come out yet, but that's where it will go. I haven't got an exact date, but we'll put that in there, the profile tab.
um, will we ever be adding the skins from the beta? So like the old Beck, etc.
So a couple. It's probably worth mentioning that when we said like we're working on performance and improvements at the moment, and that's kind of our current focus now. One of the biggest areas are kind of both animations and how characters kind of work in a setup. So both for performance and like to fix bugs. And one of those areas that we're not necessarily completely happy with is hair in general. So we know that like we had cooler hair in some areas in the beta originally. That's because we used a different hair system that was a bit laggy, and so yeah, we're definitely aware that, but we can definitely make the new system look even better. So we'll be looking at hair holistically as part of an update. So that's definitely something we intend to look at.
On the theme of optimization, someone has asked, we'll be adding more graphic settings, for example, a 120 FPS mode on consoles.
Yeah, so there's some optimizations we're working on right now that will further improve performance. We've definitely improved it overall in the last year, but we know we can push it further. And once we've completed that, we do expect we can turn on a 120 FPS mode on consoles. Until we've tried it, we couldn't say for sure. But it's something that we intend to do. Normally, the way it works, right, is we set up a second graphic setting that might have slightly reduced quality, but will run at 120 FPS. So yeah, something we are looking at, but we don't have a fixed release date for.
Next, at some point, will there be rewards for leveling up or daily missions?
That's another one like ranked that we see coming up now a lot more. Like it's kind of bubbling to the top. So that's one of the things we are strongly considering looking at when it isn't yet in development, but we do think that would be a good fit, right? Daily rewards and adding some more stuff in kind of around the accolade system.
Cool. Just want to move on to some more fun questions, just to break things up. What is your favorite skin in the game?
It's funny because Scabs just asked the exact question we just answered. Favorite skin? Oh well, I'm gonna have to because we're about to do a bunch of character further like refinements, performance fixes. I've been looking at skins so much. Oh, it's a difficult.
I know what mine
question.
is.
Oh yeah,
Mine's an easy answer. Mine's the Krampus skin.
Oh
the-
no, bad.
with the
That's a bad
backpack.
opinion. That is a very bad opinion. It's definitely for the experiment. It's got to be the chocolate bunny. I
Well,
want to get murdered by
Wait, okay, I'm
by
ridiculous.
that.
I
That
didn't notice
is
that.
that
Well,
one is
the
terrifying.
Okay, fair enough.
the Krampus has the backpack with the shaky legs
Ooh,
in.
it does have the floppy
So-
feet. Yeah, no, that
The
is.
floppy feet thing is great. Yeah, that's experiment skin. Yeah, that is good.
Oh yeah, that's good fun.
What about in the chat? What's your favorite skin?
I think
Maybe we could leak.
I
one
like
of
the
the upcoming-
vampire. Who has
the
it?
count.
Is it Alex that has that?
Oh, the vampire
chap.
hunter.
Vampire Hunter.
The hunter
Yeah,
skin. That's good as well.
I quite like Nina, the vampire victim one, the cheerleader. What am I seeing a lot of?
Joker's Chang skin. That one's particularly disrespectful. I tend to die to that one a lot, but that's probably because Shazam's playing. Yeah, I've. It's interesting when you do play with people playtesting office. They often play the same skins. Then you develop certain like feelings towards certain skins because you get outplayed or something, or like you kind of associate a character with their play style. Like I very much associate like Lisa as a character with Ollie's play style of just kind of very just blasé and just doing random stuff, and you're not really sure what's going to happen. So like, despite Lisa being, a police officer law-wise and almost like Law and Order in her character, I almost see her as like a chaos agent just because of who I play with quite often. So that's one of those funny like.
Yeah, that's what happens, right? We play with a lot of the same devs, same people.
There's also another good answer to this question, which is we're currently working on the upcoming skins for season 5, and some of those I think may make it into my top list.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
I think what I like about those ones is that I don't know if it's too leaky, but it's kind of more tied with the map and some of the lore with the map. So it's a bit more
Yeah.
I guess I don't know kind of like textured in some way, and like feels like it's more grounded towards what's going on. So it was very fun coming up with those ideas. And seeing them being progressing and the concept art on that's good fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the season 5 skins will go down well. There's some really cool stuff in
For
there.
sure.
What? Yeah, man. Oh, I was just
We
thinking
were
about
doing
the
so many changes during the season 4 skins. We were a little bit more limited, I feel like, what we could do in season 4. But season 5,
Yeah.
I think we have some pretty cool legendaries.
Yeah.
Next up, will there ever be a higher Ascension rank than Master?
We just talked earlier a little bit right about wanting like potential daily rewards and things we might be doing, so it's something we'll look at. Don't think the current plan is to add anything above Master, but Master to kind of like adjust as we add new accolades. I don't have a fixed answer on that though. I think we'll look at it again as we add more content and decide if that feels appropriate. With anything like that, obviously we don't want to undermine people's achievements and want to make sure that things feel balanced and fair. So I think it depends on how we feel when we add any content to that. Yeah. At the same time, yeah, we're not trying to create like an insane level of grind in that respect, right? So we're not like hard pressed to add like a really hard thing above Master.
Next up, mutations. Are there any plans to add any new mutations in the future?
Yeah, I would like the idea of adding new mutations, and that's also one of these things that's coming up as a higher priority with lots of suggestions. We do have to deal with the fact that like the mutation setup we have right now fits the number of things in the wheel. So we're going to have to address whether it's okay for certain mutations to only be active in certain games. So there's a couple of things there we need to talk about before we add any.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that I think would be good seasonal content occasionally.
I think it'll be super fun. Like shout out to anybody. Shout out to all the folks who remember Multiply, the greatest mutation of all time.
And
For
multiply
those
your
who,
frame rate by 0.5.
yeah, exactly. It definitely takes a bit of a dip, but no, that was a fun idea. And I think with a lot of mutations, you can do. There's a lot of fun stuff. It is kind of like there's a lot of outplay potential. Like I remember when the Soul Swap was first introduced, and you can there was a lot of pretty quick fire stuff going on there in some of our play tests, and it took some getting used to, which was a lot of fun. But yeah,
On that question of make Deceit to have the choose your teammate thing for the Terror, we actually did the intro cinematic the way we did so that we had that option. Um, so that is something I feel like would like to add. It's quite tricky. There's some technical issues with making sure people can get into games and that it's as seamless as possible
I d-
because the way we do it is quite unique to Deceit. I think there's still some stuff we're working on there, right, Jord? But I like that in principle, right? I liked when we did that in Deceit 1.
I'm not sure if that's generally a liked feature or if it's a split opinion. I'm curious, just a very quick straw poll in the chat. What do people think? Do they like the idea of being able to one person gets assigned and they can pick their teammate, or do you like the two random approach?
Did we do that differently in ranked and non-ranked in Deceit? I can't remember what we did last time we did that. Or is it always you can pick?
it could be cool to have something where you like if you're on a party of two, you could like tick a box to be like preference for trying to get double
It was
infected
one of
with
those
that one
things that
person and
helped
stuff.
a bit with teaming when people just played with their
Yeah.
friend. Obviously, that is against the rules, but
Yeah.
Mm.
it did
I
help with
mean,
that a little bit.
from this, I see split opinion, but I think it's mainly people are going towards random. But
Mm.
interesting.
Hmm.
It is interesting.
Yeah. How much can we talk about the skins for season 5? Can you say which characters are getting them?
Uh,
Well, we're
maybe in
in
a
an
bit. Let's not get
yeah.
too leaky.
Okay. Let's
Okay,
do that.
cool.
Let's not say what they are. What
It's
characters
it.
are there? To be fair, what
It's
characters have
a.
the skins? We can say that.
Well, okay, I was just seeing a lot of ask for the Lisa, like a Lisa vampire skin. But
Oh yeah,
I was just thinking that we do have a pretty sick Lisa skin coming up. So
yeah.
that's probably
That's a good point.
that's probably my favorite one of the ones batch so
Yeah.
far. So that one should be pretty cool. And it kind of has a similar vibe. So maybe for
Also,
folks
there's
that really want
such
that
a
type of skin.
hilarious Halloween item skin that I'm thinking of as well.
Oh no, yeah, not that one.
That
It is definitely trivialized some of the discussions. It's
um
hard to talk about the item when you're like, yeah, we're seriously making this. So
yeah, that's pretty soon though.
yeah,
Okay, cool. Next up, will there be a Deceit One like tutorial?
Um, it's funny because we speak about tutorial regularly. We did through the original development and testing and like the last year. For sure, the last few months we've absolutely prioritized trying to make it clearer what's going on to new players. before then looking at something like a tutorial, because you'll have seen, right, in the last few months we've like added colors to teams, we've changed the loading screen, we've made the implant clearer, we've now added a roles tab. We've been trying to get these visual elements like as clear as possible so that people can learn by playing, because at the end of the day a tutorial can only ever do so much. So our thinking on that has been like a tutorial comes like when we feel like we've improved and fixed things as much as we can. So I agree on a cool intro experience tutorial, and I've seen some lore questions pop up, right? That's also a fun place to use a bit of lore. But we're not quite at the point yet where we think that's more important than kind of fixing UI and animation and clarity things for the game.
Up next, are there any plans to make the Game Master more horror-based, like in Deceit 1?
We've heard the feedback that like the game master voice kind of doesn't hit the same as some of the original Deceit 1 stuff. We kind of agree. I'm pretty happy with the new game master, but I agree that like he could be a bit more ominous, and there are some lines where he's a bit too shouty, and it's difficult to like toe that line when we're trying to make this kind of ritual feel cool, but also not like it sounds like a game show. So I think we agree there are some lines we're not as happy with as others that we can like improve upon. So we're planning to action some of that. So I would say like we're planning to tweak it towards that direction, and we think we can get some cool results there.
Cool. This next one kind of mimics what we've been saying a lot so far, but I'll ask it anyway so we can explicitly talk about it. With each new update, it seems like we're making a lot of progress in terms of features, but with new features comes, some issues and problems, and it feels like we are working on features instead of addressing those issues. Is there a plan to stop working on the features so much to focus on fixing the issues?
Yeah, I mean that's what we said earlier, right? Like that's exactly what we're planning to do in the next couple of months. We're gonna like focus on really refining what we have, and that includes addressing the feedback. Like, does a role like a phantom, does it need a nerf or not? Let's look at the win rates. Let's look at what's happening in games. We've plugged in a bunch of analytics into the game, so we can actually like see for all the games that are happening, whether they're being lost or won more based on what roles are in the game. So we have all the information we now need. We're letting it play out, and we're kind of reviewing that. So yeah, that's the focus right now. Really trying to fix bugs and make improvements to solidify what we have.
Cool. Another fun question. What's your favorite map and terror to play?
That changed. I mean, the circus has been recently because I'm really happy with some of the new ideas we had on there. Broadly, God, they're all so different. I feel like the circus is the coolest one so far to me. I like the asylum still, the original map. I feel like we could add a lot more like moving stuff and like sounds to the asylum. It could be like more horror-y than it currently is. So I'm pretty happy with the asylum. I like it, but like I feel like it could have more. That's kind of my feeling on the asylum. Wurgen I like. I think we're doing a few more optimizations to it to help with that. It's got like so much to it, the Wurgen, because it's got so many
Yeah,
different
the art
areas.
design on that is crazy. It's very very ambitious first map because you've got like four different areas that are in our aesthetic design are completely different, and trying to
Yeah,
mesh that together logically and paint that story throughout the map. That was a lot of
I really
work.
like the story and the overall like variety in the
Mm,
Wurgen. We've got some ideas to improve the tasks there because there's a lot of just like press E. And I think things could, again, like I said with the asylum, I think things could. It's such a cool map, but things could react more when you do stuff.
yeah.
Um,
And I
so
think that's one
yeah,
thing that's been really helpful about the feedback from the circus is that it has been like on the tasks and on like the general gameplay stuff. There's been a lot of positivity about that, and it's kind of
yeah,
helped us get a direction on how to um, go back and up the quality of life and the fun factor on old maps as well to how they see how we can kind of um, take that to just small things that just go a long way just when you kind of combine it all together. So
yeah.
yeah, as you said, like pressing E on stuff. Well, how can we kind of when does pressing E work? When does it does not work? How can we improve it from there? Um, Like, for example, on Millhaven, one of the things we changed recently, which will probably be coming up, is the incinerator task, where you get this coffin inside a chamber and then it lights up and starts burning the body. Before it was like you press E twice and one time on the door, and people would get a bit confused on like waiting and like, have I completed it yet? And so we kind of changed it so now there's like a button that you have to press and hold and it will go in. And so it's a bit more intuitive, but also hopefully a bit more cathartic. And it's like small things like that. It's like we don't have to
Like a
go
lot of small
crazy on
things
it.
like that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's one of the examples.
Yeah, that's cool, and that's coming out. That's not out yet, is it? But yeah, those sorts of things we're definitely looking at.
Yeah.
Which is great. I noticed a question on before I lose it. Where was it? Now I have to scroll. Oh, the FPS on Wurgen. Yeah, I kind of touched on that. Wurgen has slightly lower FPS than the other maps, but we've got some stuff we're working on to fix that.
Cool. Moving on to a set of questions about the community and events. So first up, how do you feel about the current lore state and plans for expanding?
We did a bunch of lore work when we first when we first started working on Deceit 2. Then I think what we found was we needed to make sure there was enough focus on on what the player is experiencing. I think there was too much of a gap between a lot of the lore ideas we had and the actual gameplay. So I think a lot of the focus in the last few months has completely shifted towards like how the player feels and how we could improve that. And I think we've made some good progress there. We've got a few more bits to improve, but like voice acting and certain things like that, right? But would like to do more lore. I think the question we would have there is where can we put more lore that's going to have the most impact on the player still, right? So, we're always looking for ideas. A tutorial was mentioned earlier, like but are there other smaller areas we could use lore more? Maybe in some of the promo stuff. Um, you know, Potentially loading screen. That's a good point. So yeah, as part of our like smaller refinements that we're focusing on at the moment for the next couple months, we'll bear that in mind, and maybe things like loading screens we could maybe try and use a bit of lore. We just have to be careful that it's not confusing, and that we don't go over the line to literally have a hint system that's so lore centric that that it's confusing for new players.
Next up, are we doing any seasonal events coming up?
So we have this update for Halloween with Halloween skins and like some theming being added to the game. This time we're not doing like a collect candy style event system. That's partly because we've just added so much stuff to the game. We're trying to like see if like certain things are balanced, and we didn't want to like change the gameplay like this month. So there is a Halloween update. It does have Halloween skins, but it doesn't have like an event system this time. But we're open to like feedback, and for Christmas there'll be another update. So we're definitely doing updates and skins for every event and season. But we haven't necessarily made a final choice as to like, for next year, what we do about any kind of gameplay tweaks. For Halloween, we're trying to keep it relatively simple because of the stuff we're trying to improve.
Halloween Millhaven map, that was good fun last year.
I think we're doing that right.
How many versions of the Millhaven map did we do? Actually, we did a Chinese New Year. We had a Halloween, and we had Christmas. Right? Did we do another one, or was those just those three?
There was Luna as well, right? I think.
Yes, that was.
So I think we're bringing that back. I actually haven't checked, but yeah, we're putting decorations around.
Yeah, my favorite thing was all the new skeletons and their little different outfits they'd have on each one. That was my favorite one.
Another question, do we have any plans for any more community competitions, events, tournaments, that kind of stuff?
Do you want me to jump in?
Go for it.
Yeah, we are planning a community tournament later this year, and we're exploring new ways to engage with players through competitions. The key thing for us now is making sure that the events are accessible to everyone. We have the art contest out at the moment, but I think it's quite niche. So we want to make sure with the next competition that it's more accessible to everyone. We've looked at like a lore competition, like writing some lore. But yeah, we're working on it, working with the head mods and the seniors and everyone trying to come up with cool ideas. But yeah, there will be more. It won't stop.
And the tournament stuff is interesting. It's been a while since we've done that, right? So that'll be good.
It's like
What,
Mario Kart.
one more for you, Carlos. Do you read and consider feedback from Discord?
Yes, we do. All right, we bloody do. Every week, I sit down with the team and I take them through all the feedback. Obviously, the higher up voted stuff we see as a higher priority. We have lots of lists and things we're working on. But yeah, I mean, you should be seeing that with the updates that your ideas are being pushed through. You know, we make sometimes immediate changes to stuff based off of your feedback. So if anything, we do more than most people do. So yeah,
Yeah.
we are listening to your feedback, we are making changes, and we will continue to do so. Anyone saying otherwise is talking BS.
I think there's another interesting point there as well, is that when we have those meetings, sometimes a suggestion comes through. And the suggestion, we try and think, why are they asking this suggestion? And then we may make a change based on that may not be exactly what they're saying, but it's like a better change for the game overall, thinking about it from a whole game development process. So sometimes your suggestion may not exactly be implemented, but something to address the root cause, maybe at the same time.
And I think we're also we tend to do little updates every now and again, taking people through the feedback and what was said. So maybe we'll kickstart that again so you can see what we're thinking internally and what's being highly prioritized. But this kind of ties into like ranked again. Like if everyone wants ranked and the feedback is constantly we want ranked, then yeah, we'll keep pushing on that.
Cool.
So a question about Masquerade skins. I think we do have exclusive skins, right? The question's about whether like recolors of exclusives are an option. I think in principle they potentially are, but obviously there's no current plans to do that.
They
That
might
there's
be in the crypt, the recolors. I don't remember.
Oh, did we have a second version of them that's like a crypt version?
Oh, so no, I remember. The base version is available. The recolor was the exclusive, I believe.
Oh, it's the other way around. So I
Yeah.
guess the answer is there's already those in the crypt then, the Masquerade ones.
Yeah, and the recolors will keep as exclusive because those were
Yeah.
for the when people got them into Deceit 1.
Yeah.
And if
It's
we
only
gave
the
them out,
ones
then
that
we'd be going against that promise.
Yeah, it's a specific legacy skins that I think are more exclusive. We don't have like recolors of those. In principle, we're open to some more legacy related stuff, but we're trying to address the issues we've been talking about in this call, so far first before looking at stuff that's too legacy focused. But also, like, we know that Deceit 1 and 2 have slightly different positionings, right? Like with Deceit 2 being a bit more deduction focused, so we're trying not to blur the lines too much right now. But of course, we're not against that stuff, and as time goes on, maybe we'll look at that.
It's another question for the chat as well as you guys. Do you have a dream like theme of a map/terror you'd love to do at some point?
I have a dream.
I have one, but I'm not sure if I should say it. I don't know.
Submarines are a
I
good
can
one,
go
by the way.
first.
I thought of that as well. I'd love for it to like flood when the in between happens.
My
Ooh.
what I'd love is a Jurassic themed map with a dinosaur style terror. I think that'd be really cool.
We spoke about like a scarecrow vibe as well. Which is okay.
There's so many. There's so many. Yeah, I would kind of like. I'd love another kind of overly creepy one. Kind of like the monkey, where it's kind of like a human, but they're kind of morphed to be a more just kind of scary version. Yeah. I don't know, like something like that, where it's kind of like I don't know if you've seen like those caricature drawings that like some artists will do in like I don't know like 30 seconds. They'll do like a self portrait, but they'll make your face look kind of very cartoony and funny. I feel like that's kind of like that can match like a creepy vibe in a similar vein of a like a clown, but like not a clown. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Zoo looks interesting. We had a lot of animals recently in Carnival, didn't we? Museum's also cool. Yeah.
Oh,
I really like the idea of merging two things, like how we merged monkey and clown. I'd love to do something like a skeleton cowboy or something. You know, just like two random themes that come together to make something new.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we like there's been like a spaceship or something like that, and like the sabotage could be you turn off the gravity or something like that, make it low gravity. You have to it's something like that where it's like kind of a fun like pivotal bit of the map where you like gameplay ideas just naturally come from it. Those are always fun to talk about.
I like Night in the Museum. It's great.
All right, cool. Moving on.
Spaceship would also be cool. With that, I forgot to mention that. Right. Obviously,
It's a
there's
bit
kind of
sussy.
the Among Us stuff, but at the same time, it's quite a traditional, cool looking environment for like an immersive game, right? A horror theme done like in proper 3D.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting.
Well,
And
oh,
obviously, yeah, with
actually,
an alien
one
terrier.
yeah, one thing that happens is like say I was on holiday recently and came across like an abandoned mine shaft and I was in like in a canyon and we're like, man, this was it's kind of like I'm so Deceit 2 brain that like my first thought that man this would be a great map in Deceit 2, like if we could have like you have like mine carts you could ride around or something like that, fun little things like that. So
In the forest in Deceit 1, there was almost like a touch of like minecart, like in one section of it. So
yeah,
you could
just
do
go
like
for
a
a ride.
forest map meeting that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, next up, what was the thought process behind the transition from Deceit 1 to Deceit 2?
Well, Deceit has always been a mixture of like action and social deduction, and I think the biggest drive from the team was to say, this is cool the first few times you play it, it's hilarious, and then it kind of becomes an action game, and obviously that has had a dedicated community. But we really wanted to see if we could make it so that even after you've played it like 100 times, you can still have that kind of deduction gameplay. Um, and initially we had more of a focus towards groups of friends playing it, which we still think is obviously it's a great way to play Deceit. But over time, we've really tried to make it basically the best match-made social deduction game that you can play, because you can't really play most social deduction style games match-made. Obviously, all matchmaking in these sorts of games, you're going to get good games and bad games, right? But we felt like that was like a unique strength of Deceit. So it was a rework. We also, of course, like did a lot of creative change and with the lore and the style of the game. I think it took us a while to like find our place with that, with the amount of changes we set out to do, and we've got a lot closer to that now. But yeah, I think those were the main things.
Yeah,
Obviously, there
I
was the
mean, one of my
technical
favorite.
change with consoles too, of course.
Mhm. Yeah, one of if anybody wants like again a bit more like a glossy version of this, I think it's set up by like the first Behind the Mask on YouTube. That's really good explaining just like the thought process behind um Deceit 2 and
Oh yeah, we have
it
a
kind of goes
behind
from
the
there.
mask video on that
Yeah.
on YouTube, which also because it's from back then when we were still kind of planning Deceit 2, it gives you an idea as to what was in our heads.
Mm.
And I think it took a while kind of to go from that because of how much we set out to do, kind of completely making it from scratch. A lot definitely evolved over the last year as well, but that will give you an
Yeah.
impression.
Yeah. Finding 8 friends is hard sometimes. That's what I'll say. Um, don't
Yeah,
have
for
many of
sure. Like
those.
increasingly, we really had to make it click with the matchmaking as much as we could. Obviously, I think I saw a question on this right about matchmaking and kind of um, moderation and stuff in the list, wasn't there? What was that? Always skipping ahead.
I was going to move on, but if you have a question to answer.
No, I meant in the list that I saw earlier of voted on questions.
Oh, no, I'm going through
But
the list
let's just go.
Carl put together.
Okay, let's go through the list again. I think it will come up.
Okay, cool. Next, do the developers play public matches to experience what an average Deceit 2 game is like?
Oh, that's the question I was thinking of. Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah, so yeah, that's the point though, right? Like matchmaking. Like we've that's really the big identity I feel like of Deceit that's so unique compared to anything else out there. It's social deduction, matchmaking, coming together a lot more than I feel like it does in other social deduction style games. But obviously, yeah, with match made social deduction, you're always going to have good and bad games, and I think Game Watch definitely has made a difference. It's had an impact, but there's it's had some impact, but it's not a magical solution to the problem of trolls. So I'm glad we've taken steps forward, and obviously the moderation team is also really helpful here and has done so much to help make sure the game works. So between the moderation team and Game Watch, I think we've done quite a lot to bring this forward. There's more tooling we can still make, and it's going to take a while to refine an AI system like Game Watch.
I think
But yeah, I think we have the same experience doing it as everyone else, right? Like, some games are better than others, but there's so many hilarious games of match-made deceit that I've had.
I think one of the interesting like psychological things with Game Watch is that after a toxic person may have been muted once or twice by Game Watch, they are then aware it's a thing, and that in itself can affect their behavior. So sometimes not even having Game Watch action something, but just having the threat of it actioning something can also reduce toxicity, which has been quite good to see.
Yeah, and with regard to like playtesting in general, or like playing just in casuals, one of the things we definitely encourage, and more so when a patch is released, is spending time playing with the community. I remember like one of the experience I had recently was just because of the new patch, we actually had a big influx of new players, particularly on console, and it was interesting to get another wave of refreshing information on how new players perceive the game for the first time, because that's always been a, a, a big challenge with social deception games like this one, just helping people get introduced that yes, you're meant to do tasks, because I'm playing a game and lots of the players are new, so I'm the only one doing tasks, and so it can feel a bit helpless when you're innocent, but just trying to see where the pitfalls are, how we can make tasks more intuitive, or other small things like what just communicating to players, and trying to make them play again, because once you play about 2 or 3 games of Deceit, you kind of get an idea, but the first time playing can be a bit overwhelming because there's a lot going on and it's going very quickly. So that's one of the things I noticed and got a lot of pointers on.
I'm going to merge these two questions because I think they're quite related. Are you aiming to increase the market size for Deceit 2, and any big marketing campaigns planned for Deceit 2?
So I'll try and keep it relatively brief because we've got other questions to get through. But I think Deceit has a niche to it to some extent, right? Like we're not trying to expand it to the point of being like your generic like I don't know, battle royale shooter or some massive market, right? It at the end of the day, it has its identity and it's based around people talking to each other and engaging with each other, right? And we just talked earlier about how we think we can still make that better, and moderate matchmaking better to help it give a broader appeal. We're not planning to like change its identity to be a more broad appeal game. It is, it has its identity, right? But yeah, for sure, like we feel we can expand it more. It's a game that's bigger on consoles than Steam right now, right? Like consoles is doing well for Deceit 2. We also have found, like with the original Deceit, that like it's actually in this kind of state now once we've added more content to the game and we stop changing core things like the final showdown, and these things have now settled, right? Then it's really helpful because people are putting YouTube videos out, all the great content creators are making stuff, and it's easier for people to understand what the game is and get into the game. And actually, sometimes we then see, some big streamers will play it, and what I'd say we've been doing now is trying to be more prepared on social media and content lined up, to help really bolster when we see that organic interest. So yeah, we're going to do a bit of a push around Halloween and a bit of a push around Christmas and these events, around visibility on Steam and all the improvements we've made to the game. So we have a bit of stuff planned for the rest of the year there. But I think rather than like some kind of big launch or anything, what we're looking to do now is kind of just continue um, to build off like all the newer kind of YouTube content that's shown all the cool new stuff we've done and how much has been added to the game. So less of a like overnight thing and more of like a build up over time. Is generally what we're working on. And at the end of the day, like there's a new season every 2 months. We're always trying to bring a fresh take to it, and we're hopeful that kind of builds interest over time.
Cool. Do we have any plans for any collaborations? / are we open to the idea of collaborations?
We're open to that now, yeah. So we felt we needed to focus on the core terrors that the first four. I think now, for sure, that stuff could work. We haven't got anything currently in development that's a collab, but we're definitely open to that. So we'll see. I think it's one of those things that now that things more has been added to the game and it has a clear identity, it then makes it easier to kind of incorporate other things. You know, it gets clearer how that can work. So we have some ideas, but nothing just yet that we could say.
We need to
Cool.
get a Mr. Blobby Terror. That would be perfect.
Mhm.
Well, skins are an easier place, aren't they? For it?
Okay, this is my last question on my list. Do we have any stories of any scrapped ideas that we were playing with whilst the game was in development?
That's a big one that comes to mind, which is the clipboard. Also, I've got a question. Okay, I've got a question. Right, is a skibbity skin a terrible idea or not a terrible idea for Morgus?
Oh, we could do that.
Okay, that's completely random. Anyway,
And,
let's
and
get back to
if you say it's a good idea, you're getting banned.
This is the test.
But that's the
folks,
other thing,
okay?
right? Like it's
Delete your
it's not a
comments quick.
collaboration, but it's pop culture, isn't it?
Oh yes, it's
just like a monkey in a
source.
toilet moving around.
What the Sigma?
Anyway,
we do have a clown skibidi on the map in the porta
yeah.
potty.
Okay.
So
Well, we'll swiftly move on from that. So yeah, the clipboard, right? So, that was interesting, right? Because when we first started Deceit 2, we were looking for ways to make social deduction more part of the core game, and the clipboard was an item we tried, but that felt too detached right from the game. The funniest thing is that like the first version of the clipboard had the most outrageous like names for everything. It was like banana, strawberry, like red, blue, and you had to like match them up, and it just felt like so thematically ridiculous. But even when we like improved it, it felt like that then became the inspection mechanics, right? We had a different inspection mechanic on each map, and that then felt a lot better. So that's like the first thing that came to mind, where it's like it didn't feel like it fit, and we kind of adapted it.
I don't know if you remember, but we used to have 3 infected on a team as default. And I remember I was one infected, and we all bought clipboards, and then we just got RNG and we just iced like 2 people by just pretending that they've all got the same thing, and you're just able to convince everybody to join you. And it's like they've got the bad information, and then you could really convince
Oh my god,
people
3
about that.
infected! I can't even.
That was crazy.
That was hilarious.
Well, that
Yeah,
was
there's a lot of-
because of Deceit 1 it was a third, right? Like 2 and 4. So when we went to 9, we made it 3 and 6.
We've
Yeah.
tried
that
so
ended up
many
changing.
things. We've tried so
Yeah.
many things. We're happy with where we ended up on the core game mode now. Very happy. We did a lot of experimentation to get here. And then there's a question there also about other game modes. So definitely we're looking at like what a kind of advanced or ranked queue could look like first before any kind of game mode considerations. I think if we did any other game modes, that'd probably be seasonal or like rotational. Not currently planned. We have other stuff we want to look at first, but
James, what have you done? All I see is the word skibbity in the chat now.
oh, as in like the actual. Yeah, we're talking about the copyright, the legal ramifications of it now.
Okay, cool.
Lethal injection was good. Well,
yeah.
We kind of isn't that's basically the warden, isn't it? If you know, in a way, I kind of always saw the warden as like the lethal injection as a role. I mean, it's not quite the same thing.
We could try and the great thing about like roles and stuff is like we could have a little thinking on how to incorporate some fun things there. Should be good fun.
We didn't end up like one thing we did consider at a point was kind of power items. So like basically the obvious ones from Deceit 1 are shotgun and lethal. Like, could there be a thing in the map where you vote and get a power item or a double objective? It's an option.
Well,
we don't want to make the game too complicated, though.
We did have a shotgun at one point in the game when we first made Wurgen as the inspection mechanic.
Yeah.
There was kind of just like get the pin and get the gun, and someone just shoots
Yeah,
everybody.
when we first made so it was the second map, right? So like when we first
Yeah.
made it, we're like, to make every map unique, could this one just have like a shotgun on it? But then we were like,
Yeah.
let's not completely change the core game identity based on the map. So
Yeah.
we went for the
Inspection VATS, which I think,
VATS.
yeah, awesome, really, really good, fun. I like that one particularly. For a while we had it that what was it? The Phantom could would get insta killed by the Warden, so he wouldn't go to menace mode. And then I was like, I went into the VATS with Jord, and then I was Phantom and he was Warden, and so he just killed me straight up, and I was like, that was gotta love the VAT stare down, particularly when it goes red and you get insta Warden marks, you know you're in trouble.
It's the banana peel point. I kind of agree. Like that's like another like light item alternative that could be a thing potentially. Interesting.
Oh, I mean,
I know you're going to mention that skin, aren't you?
well, no, my dream has been, when Ollie
Yeah.
brought this up before an April Fool's, is that we have the bread roll, where on April Fool's, someone at night gets transformed into a piece of bread and basically becomes prop hunt, and they can't move, so it's the bread roll, but it's spelled with 2 L's instead of L and an E. There you go.
Just become bread.
Return to bread.
Were you doing something for people that prefer legacy? I think that like for Deceit 1, legacy for some people is what represented like the action focused version of the game better than anything else. So people who like the shooting, who like the intensity, enjoyed that. So that kind of like, it's almost like that's the opposite end of the spectrum from what the Deceit 2 game mode kind of offers within balancing of kind of action and social deduction. So obviously within our game mode conversations, it's something that does come up. Like, do we want an action focused Deceit 2 game mode for people that like legacy? It's not currently something that we're working on, but it's something that we do see being asked for and we're looking at.
I just remembered a scrapped idea from early on in development. The Rift Eyes, when they were first made, their original, instead of eyes, they were meant to be arms that, as you run past, they go out of the wall and grab you and shake you, and you lose sanity that way.
Yeah, the arms became the eyes.
I think actually one of the animations got repurposed for that, the painting task in Millhaven, which comes and grabs the item. So it's in the game, but
since
not in
it's
the
coming
same
up here, actually, again, the ranked point. So that's what I was kind of saying earlier. Like, we need to find the right fit, and I think some people are asking for ranked not because of the competitive side, but because they want to play a queue with like more experienced players that are less likely to troll the game. So that's kind of part of the argument. Like, do we do a soft rank, like a kind of a seasonal queue that isn't like supposed to be super win loss try hard, but the thing is we can't add too many queues to the game either because that dilutes the whole player base. So this is why we're still like looking at feedback and considering what to do for that.
Like just riffing, like an option could be to do a queue where you can queue for a few minutes and you get put into a high level game, but if you don't get into a game in a few minutes, you could then fall back to a regular queue. There's like ways we could potentially incorporate something.
Yeah, we can do some of it through just matchmaking in the main queue, although that it can sometimes feel like it's hard to know if that's working for players. So for sure, yeah, I think we agree. Like we might consider the separate queue for that. We're looking into what the best option is. On the point of lighting, I agree that the lighting has been a bit bright on some settings or maybe consoles. On the latest update, we did intend for the in between not to look so black everywhere, so we did intentionally do some of that. But I think some of the shadow stuff has some issues that we're looking at fixing. So do expect some of that stuff to be fixed. If you're feeling it's really bright, it probably is something that we're fixing for certain graphic settings.
Okay, cool. We are at time. I'd like to thank everyone for spending the time coming to listen to us answer your questions, and I'd like to thank Carlos for putting together the list of questions along with any of the mods who helped him. And I'd also like to thank Boris and James for spending an hour of their time this evening to come and talk to us.
No, thank you, and we'll be around on Discord. But it was great to get some questions here live.
Yeah, and I think it's been good. It's done quite well. I think maybe we'll do one again in the near future.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at the feedback for the format, but Discord works pretty well, it seems. So
And
we'll see
Alright.
you
I'll
soon
be
in game or at the Halloween update.
yeah, I'll be heading the skippity mutation that we're going to be adding. So prepare to see that
Nice.
soon.
Okay, on that note, I'm leaving.
Is that
All right.
Phantom? Okay,
And
well,
no,
there,
Mike.
I'll see you.
Have a good evening. See you.
Cool.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, everyone.